All right, so there's lots of ways to solve y equals x squared minus 4x minus 12. For example, you could use the quadratic formula, and there's plenty of room for making a mistake if you use the quadratic formula, but it's certainly one of your options. You would take and just plug into the quadratic formula equation, which is x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then you'd use a as 1, b is negative 4, and c is negative 12. You'd plug it in. It would take, I don't know, 10 minutes. There's lots of room for error, especially with all those negative signs. Probably not the best technique to use, but you could use it if you wanted to, and you could get the right answer as long as you didn't make any little errors with negatives or square roots or something like that. Another way you could do it, and the way I'd recommend, because we've been working on this in class, it would give you a great chance to practice, is using the method of completing the square and rewriting this in graphing form, because once it's rewritten in graphing form, it's a little bit easier to solve. So lucky thing I have these tiles here. I'm going to use these tiles to complete the square here. So see, y equals x squared, so I'm going to need an x squared. And then minus 4x, so I'm going to need 4x's. Now, I'm going to keep in mind that these are all minus because they're negative and not a positive. So I'm going to drag 4 of those up. So I'm going to put 2 on the side and 2 on top. All right. And then it's minus 12. Well, I'm already, if I'm using this x squared minus 4x, that would mean that I'd have x minus 2 over here and another x minus 2 down here. And I'm already in the hole. I don't have 4 that I would need to really write this as a square. So I could think of this as x minus 2 squared. Just this part right here. Only because I'm short, I would need 4 more to complete that. I am going to say that this x minus 4x is minus 4 because I'm missing those 4. And then, of course, I still have this minus 12 here, so I have to put that on there too. So again, this part here, the x minus 2 squared, minus 4 that I would have needed but I didn't have here, so I did minus 4, minus 12 is exactly the same as x squared minus 4x minus 12. It's just another way for me to write it. But if I were to do FOIL on this and work it all out, I would get x squared minus 4x minus 12. The reason I want to write it this way, and actually I'm going to simplify it a bit, because I can do minus 4 minus 12. So I'm going to go over here. Let's bring it down here. So this I'm going to rewrite. X minus 2 squared minus 16, because I have minus 4 minus another 12. And the reason I'm doing that is because now if I set that equal to 0, in other words, I'm plugging in 0 for y because the solution exists where y equals 0. Then 0 equals x minus 2 squared minus 16. I would add 16 to both sides, so 16 is equal to x minus 2 squared. And now I would take the square root of both sides to get rid of that little square. So this is going to be plus or minus the square root of 16, which is really 4. And over here I got rid of that little squared. So that means that x minus 2 is either equal to 4 or x minus 2 is equal to negative 4. And if x minus 2 is 4, that means x is 6. And if x minus 2 is negative 4, that means x is negative 2. And so my two solutions would be 6 and negative 2. Now, alternatively, another way to work that out would have been to go ahead and graph it. I did that last year because I wanted to show you that when I graph it, notice that I have the same two solutions that I just found by putting it into graphing form. First of all, I want you to notice that x minus 2 squared minus 16 means that my vertex is at 2, negative 16. And notice that at 2, negative 16 is my vertex. When I graph it, you'll also see that I have two places where it crosses the x-axis, and that's where y equals 0. And so that's what I'm looking for, where y equals 0, which is on the x-axis. And those 2 points, of course, because we already know this because we solved it, are negative 2 and positive 6. So there's 3 ways to work out that problem. And there's more.